Hello everyone and welcome to Phoenix Gaming. I am your host Nick Henning, and today we are doing some commentary on the Heat World Series of Board Gaming Ring Championship 2024. Heat is new to WSBG this year. It's also a pretty new game to me. I've played it a handful of times. I think this game is rad. I like any game that plays up to 6 people pretty simultaneously-ish. I don't know how this game feels or plays in like a serious context like this, but I am really excited that it is a game that is being played at this event. I'm not as good at this game as I am at other games, so I'm going to be doing as much learning in this video as I am providing strategic insights along the way. They are also doing a modified draft for the garage cards at the beginning of this, and they're not playing weather. The modified draft is where they do a snake draft twice. And after doing the snake draft twice, you keep 3 out of the 4 cards that you've drafted. So definitely a little bit different from what's in the book, but apparently is like a very good way of doing the drafting here. We have JC in seat 1. We have Andy in seat 2. I believe they're both friends with each other. I think that they, I think they're both from Seattle and like play games together and stuff like that. And then I looked this up, but I still don't think I can pronounce it correctly. I mean, it's Xiaolu. I'm sure I've butchered that, but I tried my best. I did look it up online, but my intonation is pretty crap. So apologies for that. But let's dive in as Xiaolu is going to get she's going to get the first pick, being in 3rd seat here of these cards. The Great Britain map is fun in that the sort of end corners there, you want to try to do a double corner if possible. And so you're probably looking at garage cards that allow you to maybe like slipstream or whip around corners like wings and things like that. It looks like we have like a lot of kind of crappy cards out here, like a lot of breaks. And Xiaolu looks like she's grabbing a wheels card that maybe has a corner boost speed and a slipstream. So I think has really valued what we just talked about with that corner bit there. Andy quickly snaps up the rotations per minute plus. It's a random boost, but it also has slipstreaming on it. So a lot of valuation on that slipstreaming really early. JC picks up the 1-5 breaks, which I assume is just essentially a 5 most of the time, followed up by another slipstreaming card, the more consistent 2 rather than the plus. And I can't quite see what the slipstream numbers are on those, but we're just going to guess that there are 2. Andy then pretty quickly snaps up the breaks. That is a whole bunch of different numbers and a heat. I think that's a pretty bad card personally, but the options here are pretty limited. And then Xiaolu's going to close out by grabbing a cooling system, which is slow, but it's going to allow her to slough off her heat on that big long runway that Great Britain has, or I guess really 2 big long runways. Get some pretty exciting flips on the second draft here. The triple plus, I think, is a really, really amazing. Just gets a lot of distance. The 4 plus is a pretty close follow-up there, so I expect those to be early gets. And here we see JC indeed picking up that triple plus. Very quick grab on Andy's 4 plus, and they're having a laugh at that as they just kind of move through. And Xiaolu, unfortunately, here not left with as many exciting options. That 7 cooling heat speed thing is certainly the fastest thing out there. I think suspension with cooling is kind of cute, but she does kind of already have a cooling system. I've seen people do some neat tricks with fuel and the recycling stuff from the deck, but it's tough to pull that off. I think the RPM doesn't look very good with its like slipstream and heat. The body is pretty slow, but gets rid of your stress. Another body that's slow and gets rid of stress and has another icon on there. So yeah, she unfortunately, I think, has gotten a little bit hosed in the way this draft has played out. So she grabs the big 7 as a movement option here, which I like. And the suspension. I'm a big fan of this suspension card, honestly. I was pretty low on it. I've played it a few times, and it actually impressed me. The consistency of being able to hit the same numbers, even though it's not a good number, gives you some options. And then the way to just sort of always be getting rid of the cooling stuff makes a lot of sense there. Andy quickly grabs the fuel, and we're going to follow up with JC grabbing the RPM with some slipstream. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the card that he gets rid of. I suspect Andy's going to get rid of the brakes with the heat on them. And Xiaolu just got some tougher choices. I think because she has 2 things with cooling systems, I would suspect one of those cooling system cards to go away. From the draft, I definitely would say that JC seemed like he has kind of the most powerful start there. We see that JC actually got rid of the 1-5, so really valuing that slipstreaming stuff a lot more than I thought. So maybe I'm undervaluing that. And it looks like Andy also, they don't seem to mind the heat as much as I do. So that's something duly to note of these people who have won a handful of good rounds with each other. We were at least right with Xiaolu, who got rid of her cooling system because she has the suspension to make that happen. Now you'll notice that there's five cars in play. Looks like our seat 3 is yellow, our seat 2 is red, and our seat 1 is blue. And we have a black and green legend that's going to be driving here. They can't win the race, but they certainly are going to be there, allowing you to kind of draft off them along the way. I think the legend system is pretty nice in this game, but I do think that it sort of is a little odd at points in that, like, I think it almost like further can help the leader if the leader's kind of like away with those guys and still has an opportunity to slipstream. Whereas that, like, if that opportunity didn't present itself, can lead to some weird scenarios. It also can lead to scenarios where the legends just don't have a good AI for that particular map and they slide behind. But I don't have enough experience with the game to say like which legends are good on which map, or not which legends, but if legends are good on certain maps or anything like that. So I don't have a strong sense here. There isn't going to be a way for us to see anybody's hand, which really deeply impacts the choices a player is going to make here. But I'm going to try to keep a little bit of track of what people have played. These are the kinds of things that we would know maybe about our opponents if we're spending a lot of time paying attention. This is the kind of game that when I was playing, I probably would be talking a whole lot less than I normally do. Because having to track that information and getting the little edges for that does really make a difference, which is my least favorite part about this game, personally. I see a lot of people hopping up to third gear and really getting out the gates here. I'm not generally a huge fan of burning heat early. I kind of tend to play this game a little bit like lower and slower and then save as much heat as possible until later and then just kind of like burn it all at the end. But I'll be really curious to see if these more experienced players decide that, hey, popping out early, going up to third gear is pretty good. A lot of times what I like to do is just do the second gear thing, and then maybe I'll hit the boost depending on the circumstances. But it's unlikely that I want to go to third gear and hit the boost. And so I guess it does depend a little bit on the cards in your hand, but I'm curious to see what folks do. It looks like JC does indeed burn a heat. So we see 3 cards, Xiaolu 3 cards. So I'm getting educated here. On Great Britain, we are looking to jump up to 3 cards on our first turn. Didn't see if Andy did it, but I'm going to go ahead and assume that he did the same. But we'll see. That's the judge moving the black card. So black legend heading up almost all the way there. JC with a 4, a 3, and a triple plus to get out right to an early start, flipping a 2-1-4 off the deck. So we've got 4, 4, 3, 2, 1 flipped off for JC, which is going to put him really kind of right up to the gate. That's pretty sweet, actually. That might make it so that he is just kind of like breezing through that next corner. Although 10 here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, then 3, 6. Okay. So it looks like it's about 17 to cover this corner and the next corner. So that's actually a pretty great flip for JC. It would have been interesting. I bet he has high cards in hand, because if he'd flipped something like 4-3-3 here and like blown past this 10, that would have been pretty devastating. Andy also comes out really strong with triple 4s. I didn't see, or no, double 4s. He does indeed go to gear 2. He has triple 4s because the plus hit a 4. So he moves 12 and then slipstreams into a spot kind of right behind JC, it looks like. He'll discard a 2-2-1, it looks like. And I like Andy's position a lot more, but it's pretty lucky of him to hit that 4 off the top. Xiaolu just does it the normal way. Just plays 3 4s and drives as fast. None of this random nonsense that her competitors are doing and catches right up there. So yeah, pretty clear lesson to learn here in that like we're all moving. I'll note that almost everybody hit that black legend on the way. So really helping the players out, these AIs along the way. And so I think we're pretty likely looking at all three of these players essentially hitting. Oh, looks like Xiaolu discarded at least a 3 and a 2. Looks like we got some pretty aggressive discards. Probably looking for our to cycle through the deck since we just flipped a ton of 4s out here. So everybody's looking at kind of more mid or lower cards throughout. I'm realizing, even though I'm like writing these numbers down, there's absolutely no way I'm going to keep track of people's information and when they're shuffling. We're going to try, but it's not going to work well. But I think we're going to see basically like a whip of 10 or 11 or 12 spaces this turn, followed by folks immediately slotting in past that 6 spot. So we are off to a very quick game. No one is trying to dilly-dally here. I do think that means that we're going to see a lot of people in 3rd gear. I could see JC going up to 4th gear and using a handful of like mid or low cards, then dropping to 3rd next turn and trying to move 6 with 3. Given that he's used 4, 4, 3, 2, 1, he's got a medley in his deck, but certainly very easy for him to just move 6 spaces with 3 cards on this next turn. And we see a bunch of 3rd gears, no cute 4th gears, it looks like. Everybody kind of wants the flexibility of being able to go back down to 2. JC with a 3-3-4 for a very nice, clean drive around the corner as pack leader. This is probably going to end up putting him later in the pack due to slipstreaming this turn, but we'll see what happens as the Legend's going to follow up coming out of the gate here. By the way, you can watch this original video on Dice Tower, and you know, one of the gentlemen above me is Chris C from Dice Tower, but the other gentleman is the designer of the game. And so definitely has some pretty good insights. I've heard pretty positive things from him from the Heat players in terms of he does really have a good sense of kind of the balance and structure of his game, which you'd hope for most designers. But it's always nice to hear that. He's also apparently pretty responsive on BGA, and I think he's the one that approved. I mean, I know he's the one that approved the alternate draft for this format. I don't know if they used the alternate draft in all of the rounds. My guess is that they did, but it's hard to say. And here we have Legend firing off. Shooting into the lead. Indisputable. No heat. No concerns. I do think the Legends probably struggle a little bit more on the back end of this track. Andy says, YOLO, I'm getting rid of this stress. We're doing random stuff here. But he probably has a really strong sense of what's in his deck, given that he's discarded 4, 4, 4, 2, 2, 1, and he's got 7 cards. And we see a 1, 2, 3 in his hand. So he probably had a sense that I think he was looking at like a 1, 2, 3 in his deck. And so he flips into an 8 here, which my guess is probably one of the lower things that he could have drawn. But at the same time, also just cycles stress and makes it so he's got a little bit more control over his deck. This is going to be awkward for next turn. Really hitting the 10, I think, would be nice for him. I'm not sure what's happening with this video here, but I hope it's going to catch up in a minute. Because now he's going to be behind. It's going to be really hard for him to hit past that 6 corner, whereas JC only needs to go 7 to hit that 6. We see Xiaolu. I'm never going to get it right. God, I'm so sorry. Here with the tire and the cooling or the like heating system, the supercharged system, getting 2 heat this turn for firing 11 past the gate there. And then that must be, she must have the ability that trashes 2 cards off the top of her deck, which she would have a pretty good sense of what the cards are. Throws a 2 in the discard pile there. And picks up the rest of her deck and goes for a reshuffle already. So we can cross all this stuff off. All right, I'm realizing that keeping track of these numbers is just not going to work for me. So we're going to toss that off to the side. I had grand visions. This would be a really cool match to be at least to be able to see one player's kind of pocket cam and the decisions that they're making there. Because I do think that a lot of the tough decisions that players are making along the way is going to be based on those cards in hand. And Xiaolu charges into the lead with the 11 move, taking advantage of JC's 10 move, which I think that she probably anticipated, to slip 2 more ahead, and now she can easily move 6 into the next corner, which gives her breathing space. She took the extra heat preceding, but now is in a good position to move without getting too much heat. I actually really like this because she did it and then immediately reshuffled her deck. So now she's going to be drawing this heat coming into these turns, which is the perfect time to be doing that. So that aggressive player on this corner here, I think, is like pretty brilliant. Honestly, like that feels really good in this instance. Looks like Andy and JC also don't have discard piles. So everybody has reshuffled at this point. And JC put, I think, a couple heat into his deck, and Andy has probably the least heat in his deck at this point in time. These players are snappy. They know what's up. Third gear, third gear, third gear. We like it. We're going to start with the legends who are in the lead. This is going to be a big question, essentially. This legend charges through in such a way that Xiaolu gets to draft. That's going to be a really huge deal. 7. Interesting. So to me, this says that she was trying to move in such a way as to prevent JC from drafting. Maybe also just has a good sense of how far the legends go around the corner, because she hits that legend, drafts right around, and now is easily going to hit the 5 on the next turn. That's incredible. JC counts up the heat cards that he has as he sees this kind of turnaround. I think he's trying to decide if he can get cute with boosting or anything like that. Oh, but we're going to see some randomness here. 3, 1, 4. Wow. 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, so my guess is that JC is holding most of the 1s and 2s in hand, knew that he was going to be hitting a 3 or 4, because it would be really risky to miss this corner. So yeah, he's probably holding maybe even all of the 1s and 2s in hand, and is debating, I guess, a slipstream here. That's really interesting. I would snap slipstream because it puts me within 5 of the corner. So I wonder what it is that he was debating, because I guess it could be a boost, but that seems like it would be burning a lot of heat. So yeah, I'm not quite sure what else he would have been considering in this case. But he does, of course, know the contents of his own hand, which includes all of those slipstreamy drafting cards that he took at the beginning. So maybe that's a part of what he was trying to evaluate going around the corner here. We got black charging ahead and also making it around the corner, and then JC just yeeting that car right off the track. Andy here coming in with 3. He really needs to catch up here. And so he plays breaks and a plus. This is actually where these breaks with their flexibility comes into play, because now he can say, okay, you know what? I flipped this plus. I need to move X number of spaces, which is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. He wants to move 10 if he wants to make it into the pocket and just put a bunch of heat into the pile. But I don't think he wants to do that. That seems really taxing. So instead, he's just going to go to the 9. Actually, he can't go 10. He missed. Oh, did he? Oh, but he moves 1 more because he's in 5th place. So he's using that adrenaline to go in extra space. He is going to take an absolute pile of heat as he comes around the corner here. And then slipstreams with the RPM for 5 slip, going all the way to the front. Wow. That's a really cool line. And now I'm really seeing the value of this 1, 2, 3, 4 here. He pitches the 3 and the 4 plus because he knows that he needs to slow down coming into this corner. So he's managing his hand, getting rid of one of his best cards, saying, I'm going to draw into it by the time I get to the straightaway, just with an aggressive draw discard cycle through the deck. Very cool. I'm learning so much already. I love this. I really also like that Xiaolu's frozen camera here is like a pensive. That's like a good frozen camera, right? Like if you're going to have a frozen camera, you want to look like you are thinking deeply about the game at all times. It's pretty intimidating, truth be told. Okay, this is heading into the corners here. Our players are definitely taking a little bit more time thinking about what cards it is that they're playing. One thing that I've noticed so far is that everybody's playing more aggressively than I normally would. And so what I'm learning is I need to do that. Looks like Chris George heard my comments about the camera and decided to fix it. Guess I can't complain about that. It's probably better for fidelity. Yeah, but it gets really interesting here. Like, it's unlikely anyone can jump the 5 and the 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Actually, I lied. I think everybody's got these like crazy slipstream cards, so there are definitely options. So, you know, Andy like might default to moving 5, but at the same time, if he moves 5, it's really easy to anticipate where he is. And his opponents might be able to then just essentially slot right behind him and use their slipstreams to jump the corner, which is going to put Andy basically a whole turn behind. So I wonder if Andy's going to get cute with it and try to move like 3 spaces to prevent any slipstreaming nonsense. It's important to note that the legends also are behind all of our players. So we're kind of playing a little bit of a game of Yomi right now. Like, if you do this, I do that, what's going to happen? So I could see Andy doing something bizarre and moving just something like 3 spaces, hoping that his opponents essentially don't take advantage. And I really should have written down exactly what cards people drafted at the beginning, although I didn't know what plus RPMs there were, or plus slipstream they were, because this is where you'd want to know what abilities your opponents have to get on your butt and slide past you. So there's a big difference here between, you know, doing a 4 slipstream or a 5 slipstream. And we know that JC has one of those cards and hasn't done it. And Andy says, I'll become unrulable. I will play at random. He probably has a good sense given that he's down to the last 4 cards in his deck, but he moves the number 3 that we mentioned before, discards a couple 3s out of his hand. So we see that he absolutely could have moved 5 spaces, but he cycles the stress out and says, you know what? You can't make an estimate based on how I play. You have to figure it out for yourselves. And absolutely hoses Xiaolu here, who moves a 6 and is unable to slipstream off of that. That was definitely a hope there that she'd be able to make. Although her slipstream would only be 2, would only put her to the corner there. So not a huge difference. Generates a heat, but bounces a heat with the suspension card. And JC is the one who hits here. He moves 6. He figures someone is going to get into that corner at that speed and takes advantage. But again, he also didn't play any of his slipstream cards. Looks like he is going to bump 2 right there to move into the lead. So after all that talk about Q cornering, seems like we have a pretty fundamental wrap around the corner here. But Andy dropping into 3rd place due to generating, or not generating, but using some stress around the corner here. I think JC's making some consideration. Maybe he's got a gas pedal card or something. Oh no, he's deciding what to discard. I see. 2 and something else. And here we have the legends come. We're going to rip around the corner and probably kind of tie up with our players in a lot of ways, I think. Oh, the crappy silvery black car isn't even going to make it around the corner. This is what I was talking about, right? On some tracks, these guys just, they don't do anything. And so now we're in a situation where dropping into last place really sucks because the opponents are going to, the legends are going to make it so that generating the adrenaline from being behind is a downside. Or is less, not a downside, is less likely to trigger is what I'm trying to say. And I think in a 5-player game, 4th and 5th get adrenaline. But I know in a 6-player game, 5th and 6th get it. I'm not sure if out of a 5-player game though. I'm curious enough that I'm going to pause this and 1 second. Okay, my memory is correct. It is 4th and 5th in a 5-player race. So again, going into this corner, there's this concern about being able to kind of hit the 4 and double slip around, but the distance here is a little bit farther given that players hadn't quite made it to the line. So I don't suspect that we're seeing a double corner bump right now, but obviously if someone is able to pull that off, it's a really big deal. I wouldn't be surprised to see kind of like a pretty normal move here. We see a move of 5 using tires. I think it is a +1 tire, so we're not too concerned about the heat. And looks like we're kind of flipping some cards into the discard, including one of those heat cards. Looks like that actually, I think Xiaolu did not draw a lot of her heat coming around these corners and wasn't able to cool down as much as I would have hoped for her position, given the way that she had structured the reshuffle of the deck. So my guess is that there's a lot of heat. I mean, we did just see one flip off the top of the deck, but my guess is there's a lot of heat on the bottom half of the deck as well. See the green come ripping around the corner here. And here we see JC with the drafting, the slipstreaming card, and a move of 4, which doesn't quite get to where he wants to be. Really awkwardly, the randomness, trying to like anticipate your opponents. I'm noticing this a lot, right? We are seeing both JC and Andy using the strategy of just kind of like, I can't exactly guess where my opponents are, so I'm going to use my stress and a rough estimate of what cards are in my deck to essentially, it might be that only a 2 was left in his deck, right? Like I wish I could see that card that he's about to draw. So it might be that he had a 100% chance of hitting a 2 there, knew that he was going to move 4 and had hoped that that was going to be the moves of the other folks that were there. But yeah, a miss on the slipstream there. And it's going to be a pretty normal move here for Andy, who's going to cross the line. It'll cost him a heat, but he'll get to slip the extra space as well. And Andy is absolutely boxed out of heat. So while JC is behind, he's not really behind in turns and has the best heat in his engine. Now, Xiaolu will be able to move 3 around the corner, whereas Andy needs to move 4 and doesn't have the heat essentially to make that happen. Of course, Andy, if he's moving with 1 or 2 cards, is going to be able to slough off a bunch of that heat from his hand. So he actually will be able to move the 3 or 4 or like the 4 spaces to get around the corner. But JC needs to move 5, but has the most wiggle room to do so. So currently my perception is that Andy is in the biggest trouble and that JC and Xiaolu are basically in the same position here. Nobody really has gotten a huge advantage up on anyone else just yet. But it does sort of depend on how this last corner works. And then, of course, what do we do when we hit the straightaway? Because we know that JC and Andy are a little bit advantaged on those straightaways with the triple pluses and the 4 pluses, even though Xiaolu has the 7 to go pretty quickly as well. But it's just going to be some tax on her heat system. Everyone's in second gear right now. In the cutest of worlds, you'd love to hit third gear here so you can hit fourth gear next turn. So, if Xiaolu is able to play something like 1-1-1 and go around the corner here and then just hit fourth gear the turn afterwards, that's pretty sexy. But if it's also sort of like one of the last chances to burn off some heat. She's got that suspension, so I wouldn't be surprised to see something like a 2-1-1 using the cooldown suspension from her. And that suspension will save her in the long run over the corners. We do see 3 cards coming from her, so it's exactly her plan. Whereas JC's got the same idea. Andy, however, needs to do some cooling, so he goes down to second gear, and we see that 2-1-1, but not with the suspension. She must have discarded it at some point, or just maybe doesn't have a heat in hand to get rid of. And that's the advantage of those small cards, right? Is being able to hit up the higher gear. So essentially you can hit around the corner, Tokyo drift it. And we see this green card, this green legend just emulating her every step of the way. That's kind of what you want to see in her position, is that green card copying you. It means that you don't feel bad about having moved a certain distance. And this hoses Andy, who is not able to make it around the corner. And Andy suddenly drops into a very, very precarious position here. I wonder if he's going to be able to burn off some heat. If he didn't draw any heat here either to cool down with. Oh, he didn't draw any heat to cool down with. Oh, no. Oh, Andy is very, very far behind coming into this next edge here. 2-2-1, and JC drew into his drafting, or his slipstreaming card, which is going to send him shooting maybe 5 spaces here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 spaces. He's got a +2 slipstreaming card. That's a huge deal. That puts him definitively into first with the least heat in hand. Why did he cool down? Did I miss it? Oh, because he was in 4th space. He was in 4th place. So he actually got to use the adrenaline to cool down. Wow, a really, really powerful slingshot for him. So he missed the drafting going around the corner, but immediately kind of draws it off the top of his deck on the next turn, and is able to take advantage again. That's really, really nice for him. Legend moves into 4th place, just further cementing poor Andy's position here. He's got time to catch up, but he is really far behind. The least heat, he hasn't hit this corner here. He just discarded a pile of 2s, which means that, you know, if he's going to be going with 3 cards around the corner here, it's got to be it's 1-1. It's not going to be. He's got to play 2 cards. Yeah, and then he's going to go to 3 the turn after that. Yeah, he's going to be a bit behind here. Okay, so here's Xiaolu's turbocharger. Makes 2 heat, but cools down 3. So if the bottom of her deck did indeed have all the heat cards, but she has been holding onto the turbocharger, she's actually going to be able to like burn them all off right here out of her hand just in time for the next cycle as she throws them back into her deck. That's pretty cool. JC fires off with a 4/4 quad pluses, and the triple plus demonstrates why it's just the nuttiest card in the deck. And he fits 3/3/3, okay, and a 1, so a little bit more modest here for an 18 move. Holy crap. If I can read the board correctly, is that 23? So he's going to be 5 out? No, 7 out, looks like. So 7 out, which means that he's going to hit the tenor on his next turn. Although, hopefully he has the cards for it, because we just hit 4 and a bunch of 3s. So, yeah, he's probably still good. He's got a 4 and a 3. He counts his deck to see, do I want to trigger a reshuffle here? But he did just play 4 cards, so he's absolutely triggering a reshuffle. He says, you know what? I'm not drafting anybody. I'm going to get rid of my my slipstreaming card. I'm in the front. I'm in charge here. And we see another 4 coming in from Xiaolu here, who also hits some randoms. But the random off the top here is a heat. And I can't help but wonder if the way she flipped that, if she had remembered that that was the top card of her deck or not, because it looked like a little bit of a tentative thing, but she was very quick to move it in the discard pile. So I imagine at this level, she probably was aware that that was the top card of her deck. And I'm probably just overestimating physicality here. But that means we're pretty honestly randomly moving these spaces. We're going 4/3, and we'll see what the deck says. Throwing some heat in the discard pile here. It means it's not going to clog up her hand on these long straightaways, which is nice. However, she also isn't going to be able to burn it off with the turbocharger. So it kind of depends on how much she is actually holding in terms of how good or bad that is. Get a move of 10 here, which is really not enough. JC is at this point, I think, a full turn ahead of the other players. Maybe even 2 turns ahead of Andy. Looks like we're debating some legends. Oh, or no, debating a discard at the end of Xiaolu's turn. Okay. The players have just been so decisive up until this point that I'm not accustomed to the end of their turns taking any time at all. She's probably counting the number of spaces that are left. What does she need to keep in her hand? If she just draws into, for instance, 5 heat, then she's toast, because she needs to be able to play at least 3 cards, ideally 4 cards. And fascinatingly enough, she dumps the suspension, which is the card that I generally find is good on straightaways. Like, it's slower because it's a 2, but it's always burning off those heat that you have in hand. So my guess is that she has sort of the perfect number of heat for the turbocharger or something like that, which is the reason that the suspension card goes into the discard. Always a bummer, though, when you're discarding your specialty cards. And our legends charge up as Andy is going to round out the corner here with a simple 1 random move of 1 space, sputtering around the corner, smoke pouring out of the back of his car. He does manage to throw some heat into the engine, but God, he's just miles and miles behind the other players at this stage. It looks like his star burned too bright. That move 10 to go 6 started with that move 8 all the way back on action 2 that caught up with him. That, like, yes, he was able to slingshot into a good position, but only for that 1 turn. And after that slingshot, his car was just full of heat. He wasn't able to draw into the heat to burn it off before he hit the rest of the corners. And that just murdered him. Fascinating. So what was a really tight race really abruptly changed as we hit the corner here. JC's already decided on the play. I don't think it's too complex for him. He's trying to hit basically, I think, a cool 10. I wouldn't be surprised. Let's see. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, I mean, there's no way he's hitting some number that's going to be high enough that it will get him from the 10 into the 6 corner. So he's got to go 10, next corner after that. That actually is going to give Xiaolu a chance to catch up. If she can go all the way up to the 10 corner but not pass it, 10 the following turn, then she actually will be in a pretty similar position to JC. So JC not actually a full turn ahead, but it does depend a lot on what these cards look like. A lot of fourth gears as we're hitting these straightaways. Andy burns a heat to come up to third gear like that. And we get the full rainbow from JC as he hits the 4, 3, 2, 1. Bam, turns the corner. And discards a 1 and 2, says, draw me into some good stuff. Draw me into some big numbers. I got a little ways to go here, and then I'll reshuffle the deck and draw into my low numbers when I hit those middle corners of the track from there. Nice. Silver, boom, flying up to the top, no problem. They're legends for a reason. We see that turbocharger. 6, 10, 13, 17. Is 17 too much? Or is it just enough? Just enough. That's great. That's a really great flip. Obviously, she can't slip the 2 spaces. She generates the heat from the turbocharge. Oh, but doesn't have much heat in hand. She's got nothing left in hand, but absolutely no heat in the engine. She tears around to catch up, but is smoking. 4-4 plus. Andy's doing the best to catch up with a 15 here. This is what he needed a whole round ago. Yeah, okay. So actually in this case, Xiaolu's not in a bad position. If she hits a 10, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, she is 7 spaces out of the next corner. It's tough because she needs to burn through that heat. So thinking back on discarding that suspension card, she discarded it because she was playing turbocharger to catch up, didn't have the heat, and was hoping to discard the suspension to draw into heat. Looks like she hasn't generated a reshuffle. So she probably is looking at a hand full of heat cards. She probably shuffled it all to the bottom of her deck, which might have been an ultimate death knell. Like if she had actually drawn into a couple heat and instead moved maybe, I don't know, 11 or 12 spaces this turn and been able to slough off some of that heat so the engine's got a little bit more flexibility, that probably would have been better. I mean, the number that she flipped was not bad in terms of like getting to that corner. Like doing a 10 here would be really good, but yeah, I mean, she's then in a position where, like, can she even hit 7 to go 6 into the corner? Fortunately for her, she is in 4th place right now, so she's going to be able to use the adrenaline to burn off one of the cooling. So thankfully, these legends have caught up in such a way that make a significant difference for her being in a losing position in the race to use the catch-up mechanism. Judge here getting a little cheeky with a legends card. Andy having a laugh. JC is just looking cool as a cucumber, and I can't blame him. Things have worked out swimmingly. Plus, plus, plus is just dirty. All right. We're decided. JC obviously looking to go all the way up to the edge of the 6 there. And in third gear, no problem with an 11. Basically shoots up most of the way to the corner, making it that the 6 is going to be a nice whipping corner this turn. Is he going to generate a reshuffle here? Not quite. Unless he wants to discard cards to make that happen. How much does he want to make that happen? It's a real question. I mean, he wants to make sure that he's hitting 6 next turn, but probably can do. He probably is holding. all the fours are in his discard. Most of the threes are in the discard. Yeah, he decides not to generate a reshuffle. He knows exactly what he's drawing into, what the odds are going to be there, essentially at this stage. I guess there's one card that he didn't draw into in his deck, but my guess is that he's going to hit a third gear 6 next turn. We get 7 here for Xiaolu, which is actually going to be an 8 due to the adrenaline. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, did she not? She didn't go 8. Does she not realize she has the adrenaline? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She also didn't burn off a heat. I wonder if she didn't realize that she had the adrenaline here. I mean, it's also possible she is choosing not to, or that I have something wrong, but that might be a small missed opportunity there. Andy just making his own version of the triple plus. He knew he was going to draw into the 4, so he knew that he was moving 7 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. He's hoping not to move more than 10, but he wants to hit 10. And my guess is that he said, I'm going to do something just wicky wacky here, because he does not have control about what he's going to draw here. And he's having a laugh. I mean, I think that he knows that this is just a whack play, but it's also his only chance, and he blows up. You see him shake his head. This card's not going to help you. Yeah, more stuff. Oh my God. So he burns all of his big cards. He's going to double stress. He's going to hit that corner as he spins out. And Andy, already in a almost guaranteed losing position, pushes his luck. And I respect the choice. I like that he did it. I think it is the correct play for him to push his luck to try to hit exactly 10. It's the only way he's going to maybe catch up at this stage. He doesn't. Unfortunately, that's pretty heartbreaking. He is toast. There's absolutely no hope for him playing out the rest of this race, short of just like essentially the track collapsing, or perhaps that scene from Iron Man 2 where Mickey Rourke comes on and just starts slicing JC's car into pieces. Short of that, he's in trouble. At this point, it really is just JC's race to lose. It's not the most exciting position to be in a racing game, or as either a sports or a board game commentator. But let's see if he can kind of close it out, bring it home. It's really interesting because all those really highly drafted, keep calling them drafting cards, slipstreaming cards, are basically kind of bunk at this point in time. They are not doing a whole lot. And we're now seeing what I was talking about at the beginning, where if the legends kind of catch up with JC, he's going to have the opportunity to bounce off of them, to slipstream off of them, maybe one time around this corner. It's going to make a really, really big difference that does feel a little goofy in a game where you're not hoping that the AI is going to be making like that significant of a difference in what's going on here. So we'll see. I'm surprised that JC is still kind of considering his layout here. My guess would have been that he basically had his card play figured out. Xiaolu does not have the option really to shoot past the 6 here with absolutely no heat and engine. So she's playing cards to just get up to that 6, but it might only be 2 cards. I have a feeling that she has a gazillion heat in hand and just might not have options. And we're seeing her do exactly that. Double plus from JC. I think he pretty much knows exactly what's in his deck. I wouldn't be surprised if that was on the lower end of his move, but just getting the stress out of his hand. That's something that I'm noticing these players doing is they're relatively aggressive. They'll take kind of like a less powerful or less guaranteed turn when I probably would take more of a guaranteed turn to move those pluses out of their deck, to move that stress out so that they're not essentially having hands clogged when they can play exactly what they want to play. So duly noted for me, if they're essentially in a safe position, like JC knew that all the 4s were in the discard. And so, no concern with playing 2 pluses. He's going to hit the corner, even if he drew into 2 1s. That's going to be the case. And here we see exactly what we're talking about. The legends move in front of him. I actually kind of wonder if playing the 2 pluses here, he's like, if I don't hit it, these guys are going to move in front of me. That makes a really, really big difference. Only one of them moves in front of him, though, so I'll be able to take advantage there. piddly move of 5 from Xiaolu. At least we'll make it so that she can make it around the corner. She's a full turn behind JC and does catch up in terms of 2 heat. She clearly does at least know in this instance that she has the adrenaline, so is moving up and dropping the heat off there. Yeah, a turn behind JC, who has 2 additional heat in his discard. Not to rub salt in the wound, but that's just the kind of the circumstances of the difference between the players that we're looking at here. And we see JC using the telegraph here, telegraph, Morse code to count out how many moves he's gonna make here. Oh, okay, cool. I really love this. Xiaolu basically says, I'm going to hit a boost. She uses one of the heat that she just got to make it all the way to the corner. Exactly the same thing as Andy. Like, she says, I need to win this game. There's absolutely no value in me just kind of like playing it safe. So I really, really love that boost. I often forget about that mechanic in this stage of the game. And so, yeah, really, really great call on her part to push there. She is still a turn behind JC, but it does make it that she has a little bit more opportunity to maybe hit 2 corners coming around here. It's going to be tough with the amount of heat that she has. So I don't know that it makes a huge, huge difference. But I do like the call. Nice for her that she hits a 4 too to go right up to the lip. Some heat management over here from Andy. Generation, some pluses. Looks like there was a boost that he generated. You know, he's just going to kind of keep doing the thing. I do really think that he's absolutely toast in this game, but I think that making the boost here is correct for the same reasons we just talked about with Xiaolu. Now he's at 7 for hitting the corner there, so looks like he's going to make that, which is great for him. JC here has the choice of whether he's going to move 5 or more on this next turn. I wouldn't be surprised to see him try to hit a 6. I think a 6 makes more sense in terms of there's more spaces that silver car can go either 2 or 3 out from the corner, which seems to be pretty common for these legends. I guess if I'm getting good at this game and we're going to be playing at WSBG, I got to study what percentage of the legends go how far out of the corner. That's something that would have to be noted. Obviously, I ripped this video from WSBG with their permission to make this commentary stuff. So you see that banner at the bottom. I think early bird might still be active by the time this video goes up. I think it lasts through October, but don't quote me on that. If you need a reference page, I can give you a link, but unfortunately it doesn't give you a discount. I don't have a discount code anymore, unfortunately. Alrighty, let's see what our folks got here. Gear 2, Gear 2, Gear 2. Nope, up to 3 for Andy and Xiaolu. That's a little unfortunate. I think it's just because they have to hit their numbers. My guess is they prefer to be in second gear so they could burn off some heat. So this is probably just a use of the cars that are there. Silver car comes shooting around the corner. Absolutely gangbusters. JC says, well, I can't anticipate them, but here's my 6 that Nick was talking about. And won't be able to hit the boost here. Did they move that legend correctly? That seems really far. I have a suspicion that they just moved that legend a little weird. Again, I'm going to pause the rules because I'm curious how the legends work. Yeah, so if I'm reading it correctly, I think they did maybe move a smidge. 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, maybe not. Maybe it's the full 8. I thought it was 9, but maybe it's 8. Maybe we're good. Because you move the number on the corner plus essentially the like diamond value on their head because they were close enough to the corner. So yeah, might have been actually. Maybe this is the opposite of the thing I was talking about. Like this is kind of race where they actually just end up like whipping around because these corners are so tight with each other. They're always going to burn through in a way that a normal person could not burn through. Not sure though. Move of 7 here. 2, 3, Yep. And with just a little bit of luck, might have been able to slipstream there. No dice, though. She's debating something. I think she's got to pay a heat ultimately for crossing the 6 at 7 speed, so I don't think that she can do anything too cute to cross this 5 here. I think it's just a definite spin out, given the amount of heat that I'm seeing there, unless I'm miscounting something. I think she might not even have enough heat in the engine that if she did hit a slipstream here, like let's say the green car was like just past the line or something like that, still might not have been enough. Could also just be debating the discard here. On the next turn, I think JC is very, very interested in ensuring that he gets around the corner there. So wouldn't be too surprised to see a 5 move. Is that a boost? Oh, no. It was that card that makes it so that 2 cards burn off the top there. I don't think that JC minds the idea of the green car going past him because it increases the chances that he could essentially slipstream the legend as he tries to cross the 3 line. JC's got looks like 4 heat in the engine, so 5 is going to be 1 more heat, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to cross the 3 there is 2 more heat. So JC is making these next 2 curves on the next 2 turns. Short of him not having the right cards, but he's managed his cards really well until this point, and I think has been able to kind of like hold on to what he needs along the way. He's then going to come out of that corner possibly with a plus to just kind of blow it away. I think it does feel like a foregone conclusion. We've got looks like 18 minutes left in this video, but yeah, we might see that conclusion sooner. I do wonder if they actually play through to see who gets second. That's what you do in real life, but I don't know that it much matters in this situation. Yeah, really fascinating. I think that Great Britain is a fun map. This kind of like corner glut down here and being able to like skip some corners is very interesting. I like this map a lot more than the Italy map, which is the 3 laps map. It has kind of like a very long straightaway. I think the triple plus gets like super dirty on a map like that. I think the USA map is really interesting. And the France map to me strikes me as like the most like honest map in terms of like, it's like move straight away, and some of the like least weird corners. So I don't know if that's actually true for people that are experienced in the game, but in terms of like the strangeness, Great Britain strikes me as the second strangest map in terms of like a strategy that that could be used maybe a little bit differently from the other ones, given the close corners that they have down at the bottom here with the 6-5-4-3. It makes a really big difference with the weather too. It can actually like totally change the formation of what this looks like if they add or subtract from the value of these corners, which I think is really fun. So I do hope in the future they choose to implement the weather, but I can understand that it certainly is a little bit of an extra hurdle for players to just in terms of rules, and then also like maintaining the game state. It's like one of the easier things to forget. Xiaolu slows down to second gear. Looks like JC's also staying in second gear. And we're going to see Silver probably go on to win this race. 4 move here. So Silver must have been in the 0 slot. JC's going to go before the Green Legend. A little bit of a bummer for him that the Green Legend didn't pass him. And 5 to go around the corner, just like we talked about. Green Legend here is going to move 4 plus. We can't really see. JC burning off a heat from hand that basically goes directly in the discard pile, and then discarding a bunch of low numbers, just saying that he has the numbers that he needs. Actually kind of interesting because he wants to ideally hit third gear next turn going around for 5, and he discarded a 2 and a 1, which tells me that he's holding mostly lower cards, and green will shoot well ahead. as both the legends come to dominate. And Xiaolu will flip over. She's only got a 4. I think, again, my suspicion is that she probably has a relatively clogged hand at this point in time. Never mind. She uses adrenaline to go 5, so is just kind of using the appropriate numbers, but does indeed burn off 2 heat, so we're not wrong about some clogging at the very least. All of a sudden, it does actually look like she's a lot more alive for catching up here. She is sort of the full corner around. The question is, could she move 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 next turn? So suppose she moved 6 next turn. Try to hit a slipstream on the 3 corner if someone is like right over the lip there. So if she goes 6, she's going to need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 heat. And I can't quite see her heat pile because it's not splayed out. I know there's at least 3 in there. I think there's 4 in there. So I think that going 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 next turn is basically her play. Depending on if she has heat to burn off, and then like prays that she can slip around the other corner. She can't hit 7 and pay the heat for both of those corners. I don't even know that 6 is enough. Oh, there we go. Was that a 4? I think that was 4. So if she has 1 in hand, she can burn off that heat. That would be the 5th. She could go any speed because she's in 4th place right now. So she doesn't actually need to be going in 2nd gear in order to hit that 6 that we're talking about. Or she could be using a suspension or something like that, which actually does put her as live, which is unlikely but very exciting. And then, Andy's playing the game too, which is cool. I played Andy, by the way, in Lost Ruins of Arnak. Seemed like a really, really capable opponent. Really, really pleasant guy too. I mean, you could see it in this match as he's having a laugh at himself, making these kind of like risky pushes and not hitting. And you can only laugh so much. He's kind of at the sort of like the death march at this stage, going through. He doesn't have kind of these cute plays that he can make. He doesn't have any heat in his engine, so 6 to hit that 4 corner is probably also not happening this turn, as his smoking husk of a car just tries to make it around the corner. It's okay. This is basically just like a Fast and the Furious like comeback story, right? This is the beginning where he has sort of like this heartbreaking moment. He punches the steering wheel in frustration, and vows that he's going to come back and fix it, do better next time. So I'll see him next year. Actually, not sure if he's coming back next year. He kind of gave off the vibe like he was having a good time and would, but you never know. JC's already got his cards played. Xiaolu was thinking about it. I want to see the 6 thing here. That's what I want to see so bad. If she doesn't go 6, 6 is the most exciting thing that she could do. And I think it's the one sort of like outside shot that she's going to win. I think given that we just saw JC discard a 2 and a 1, we know that he's hitting the 3 corner this turn. And then from there, he's just gone. Have the Dice Tower live stream over here. People are just like, triple plus, really good. People also asking what happens if a legend wins, and they're saying, well, it's the first player to cross the finish line in terms of who gets to win the game. Yeah. All right, moment of truth. 3 cards from Xiaolu. Love to see it. Is that only 2 from JC? Legend fires off. Probably too far to slip. Legend fires off. That's probably really good for JC. 6 move here. That's game. Slip 4. Or slip 5, I guess. So +3 slip? Yeah, it must be. That's why it's a heat. See ya, nerds never. Burns all the heat. GG. And it was 3rd gear. Is this a move 6? Move 6. She did it. I love it. Yeah, too bad that green didn't hit a 0. That was pretty much the one and only hope. I love that that was the line. Heck of respect for making that the case. But that is pretty much going to be the game at this stage. I think rather than belabor the point, sorry Andy, I don't think it's worth seeing. We're going to do a little some skippies ahead. There he goes to the corner, reshuffle, playing out of some cards. Everybody's decided. Here we go, 4-4-3 triple plus. See you guys in the next life. Hits a 4-3-2 just for a little bit extra salt in the wound here. 12, 15, 18, 20. Bye. And then do they play it out? Looks like they do play it out. Xiaolu crosses the finish line in 2nd. And there we have it. Cool. Congratulations to JC. Andy having a laugh there. Yeah, appreciate you watching, everybody. Hope you had a great time with this. Congratulations to JC. See you around.